County, and his agent is Isabella Froman. He is 13 years old, and this is his first year in 4-H. He started middle school, and this past summer he was the state demonstration winner under the software category. Today he's giving a speech, an illustrative talk on women's suffrage and struggles. Help me welcome Dalton Hatfield.
Oh, okay. I'll go ahead and take it apart. I'm sorry. That's okay.
Women's Suffrage and Struggles, Past, Present, Future, National and Global. You may ask, well, what exactly is women's suffrage? Well, it was and is a term in which women were or are discriminated against. During this time, women could not vote or even have an active role in society or decision-making, even in their own household. Women still struggle in an attempt to gain their rights in America and around the world today. In the lower left-hand corner, you can see a women's suffrage league in the early 20th century. Past women's suffrage in the United States. Before the year 1920, many women voted illegally, but were arrested. As prominent women's rights leaders up to the year 1920 were Susan B. Anthony, Carrie Chapman Catt, and Anna Howard Shaw, who were all presidents of the National American Women's Suffrage Association. In the year 1872, the first woman ran for president, who was Victoria Whittle. Whittle's number of votes were never released. And finally, on August 26, 1920, the 19th Amendment was passed, which gave women the right to vote. In the lower left-hand corner, you can see women's rights activist Susan B. Anthony. To the right of her, you can see a women's suffrage march in the year 1913. Current women's suffrage in the United States. Although they can vote and work, women are still discriminated against, even today. One example being lack of pay. Today in the United States and many other industrialized and democratic countries, women still receive less pay than their male co-workers. Men receive 57% of earnings, while women only receive 43%. That's about 37 to 21. And in the lower right-hand corner, you can see a woman around won just as much earnings as her male co-workers. Women who are currently in U.S. politics. To date, no woman has ever served as president or vice president, although many have ran on third parties. One woman, Hillary Rodham Clinton, was the first serious female presidential candidate. And Democrat Geraldine Ferraro in 1984 and Republican Sarah Palin in 2008 were the first two serious female vice presidential candidates. And here's a photo gallery of current women in U.S. politics. In the upper left-hand corner, you see 1984 vice presidential candidate Geraldine Ferraro. To the right of her, you will see 2008 presidential candidate and our current Secretary of State, Hillary Rodham Clinton. Below her, you can see 2008 presidential candidate and former Alaskan Governor, Sarah Palin. And to the left of her, you can see our current First Lady, Michelle Obama, who takes a stance on many issues facing our nation today, such as making the White House green garden. And you may ask, well, what is the U.S. government's response to women's struggles? Well, in January, President Barack Obama's first bill to sign into law was the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act. Lilly Ledbetter is an Alabama woman who worked 19 years in a tire factory and received less pay than her male co-workers. President Obama said he signed this bill into law not only for Lilly Ledbetter, but even for his own daughters, because he said he wants them to grow up in a nation that values their contributions, where there are no limitations to their dreams. Women in the media. Since the early 1990s, researchers from the University of Missouri have found that 22.2% CBS, 14.4% ABC, and 10.5% ABC News stories were reported by women. And many Americans believe that Hillary Clinton was discriminated against during the 2008 election because she was a woman, by many commentators and comedians. And lately, in the past few months, the comedian David Letterman has come under fire for remarks that many believe were sexist, referring to Governor Sarah Palin and her daughter. Her international women's suffrage. As I said earlier, in the United States and even in some countries around the world, even today, women still do not have the same rights as men. And the majority of modern women's suffrage takes place in third world and Islamic countries. For example, in Saudi Arabia, women can vote and work, but they must have a male escort because they cannot file for a driver's license. And in Iran, there are more female college graduates than males. They still do not have the same privileges. a chart of the estimated earnings per year in thousands of U.S. dollars. As I said earlier, in the United States and many other industrialized and democratic countries, you can see that women still have a disadvantage, 37 to 21. Also, in large countries such as China, Japan, and East Asia, women receive less earnings than their male counterparts, about 7 to 4. And also in the Middle East, Latin America, Caribbean, and many other regions around the world, women still receive less pay. And this was provided by the Interpress Service. Poor health due to women's struggles. Many women live and die of preventable diseases, such as AIDS and HIV, especially teenagers and young adults. This especially occurs in South American, Asian, and African countries. But if they have proper vaccination and health care from the government, many of these diseases can be prevented. And also, as many of you may know, in the United States there are many women living without health care, which leads to diseases such as cancer to be left untreated. And in the lower left-hand corner, you see sick women in South America, and in the lower right-hand corner, you see sick women in Africa. And in closing, I'd like to leave you with a quote. One of my favorite quotes in American history, by Susan B. Anthony. It was "We the people, not we the white male citizens, nor yet we the male citizens, but we, the whole people, who form the Union." And here are the credits I used to produce this PowerPoint. Are there any questions? Any questions? Okay, thank you.
For those of you who didn't hear earlier, this was Dalton, and he was the state winner in the technology and software at the state 4-H contest. Dalton, this is our 100th anniversary as 4-H, and we would like to thank you for coming to Cloverville and giving your speech by presenting you with this ribbon. Let's give Dalton another round of applause.